Dude, from now on, if I ever go to a restaurant, I am going to do my best to remember every single meal the chef gave me because judging by this movie, apparently if I don't do that, I might die. What's up, guys? My name is Krispy, and before I talk about this movie, I kind of want to talk about the state that cinema is in right now. You have a lot of people out there saying, oh my god, movies and shows right now are so bad, why do we even bother going to the theater? While I don't agree with all of the detractors and the detractions, I will admit a lot of cinema now really feels kind of mid. Now, I do think that argument is taking away from the genuinely, truly great movies and shows we have had come out over the last few years. You know, your Better Call Sauls, your Puss in Boots: The Last Wishes, RRR, 1917, the All Quiet on the Western Front remake. Those are just a few movies and shows I can name that were just great, that changed the way people look at cinema, the way they look at life. It's a shame that those movies and shows get slipped on so often because people would rather bitch about wokeness, whatever that even means anymore. But even I've got to admit, most of the movies that have been coming out in the last few years have just been kind of mid. And I feel like a lot of that, is because of the conflict that often takes place between the business side of making movies and the artist side and the artistic side of making movies. And navigating that conflict is much easier said than done. But I think that the best kinds of products come about when you just let the artists do their job. You acknowledge film for the collaborative process that it is. You let the collaborators do their part. You don't do executive meddling BS with the directors and the writers. You don't treat the actors like they are glorified puppets. You give the VFX artists the respect and the pay that they deserve. And you also acknowledge how big of a part stunt doubles and stunt actors providing like 90% of the backbone of action films. Those are just a few instances, but my point is the artistic side of making art should be allowed to play. It should be left room to do its thing, to do what it sets out to do, and to either succeed or fail on its own terms. Because if it does its job well, and it's made by a true artist, chances are it's going to knock it right out of the park. If it doesn't do a good job, then at least you've got something bad that the truly great stuff can rise above to gain notoriety. If you don't let this stuff happen, what you get is basically just a sea of mediocrity. That is the problem that cinema is dealing with. That's a good deal of the problem that YouTube is dealing with right now, with like so much content getting suppressed and demonetized and whatnot and just not being allowed. And I feel like a lot of what I think about in regards to art not being allowed to flow and the bad things that can happen and the frustration that artists must be dealing with in this kind of industry right now. The Menu is a movie that makes me think a lot about that, and that's why it's still a movie that has stuck with me for a long time now. Not why I still consider it one of the best movies that came out last year, and I'm really looking forward to talking about it. So, general non-spoiler premise, since the movie has been out for a while, I am going to get into spoilers a little later, so you can just dip out of that section if you like. You've got this cast of characters. They come from very different backgrounds, but for the most part they are all very affluent, and they have been invited to an island to get basically a once-in-a-lifetime experience eating all the best and most exquisite meals of this legendary restaurant headed by a legendary chef played by Ray Fiennes, who's sort of like Gordon Ramsay if there was something more than very off about him. And again, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but it's expected to be just that, a very nice fine dining experience, but it slowly but surely starts to turn into something else until before we know it, we are in a thriller. So I'm just going to state the obvious. Anya Taylor-Joy and Ray Fiennes in this movie, so damn good. Ray Fiennes especially, he really does such a great job at projecting the frustration of this character and how this art form of cooking that he has dedicated his whole life to has just had all the magic taken away from it by snotty food critics, corporate bros who love to exploit his restaurant and his business and his work, by bored rich people who can't even be bothered to remember the last meal they had here, and by washed up actors and their assistants who are just there to impress people while secretly trying to screw each other over, as well as fanboys who are so busy just analyzing and deconstructing the shit out of what he does that they don't really bother appreciating the mystery and the mystique and the magic of the food. All of these types of characters are here under this roof. Each of them gets a separate table. They all add so much to the movie. I never get the impression that anyone doesn't really belong here. But by having these characters here and by having Ralph Fiennes play off of all of them, even if his actions are never justified, the movie really puts you in his shoes and makes you really get why he is so jaded, why he has just lost all hope and faith and love in the thing that used to be the reason for being alive for him. Now, of course, hopefully most of us wouldn't go to the lengths that he does to deal with that, but we've all been there at some point. We've all had a passion in our lives that at some point just felt disenfranchised, that we just wanted to reestablish that relationship with, but you grow up and things get kind of jaded and you kind of have to put in the extra effort to holding on to the heart in you, He comes across as this like deliciously wacky nut job trying his best to keep this mask of sophistication on, but at the same time he is very relatable. You get what he's going through. But as great as he is, I don't feel like his character would be nearly as interesting without Anya Taylor-Joy to play off of. Anya Taylor-Joy is an actress who I have been gaining more and more respect for with every movie she has been in. Most people her age understandably go for the A-list movies. They play it safe. They go for the movies that they know are going to make a lot of money at the box office. What I like about Anya Taylor-Joy and her choice in movies is she takes risks more. She goes for the movies that are more out of left field. The ones that aren't really guaranteed to attract a crowd, but they're definitely going to hit different. I think she's very good at finding those movies and adding so much to those movies. And my God, I have never seen a performer so young hold their own against this like acting hurricane that is Ralph Fiennes so well. I mean, she is so good in this movie. They are both so good. Their characters are great too. So for context on Anya Taylor-Joy's character, she is the one working class character in the whole movie, besides Slawick and his crew. She works as an escort, she works in the service industry, and much like Slawick, she does kind of understand what it is like to be shit on by the upper class. She's been through that, she can tell that tale, and her ability to relate so well to Slawick is what allows her to hold her own so well against him, to survive his traps and stand up to him, where by the end of the movie, most of the other characters have just kind of accepted their fates. They have just had these mirrors held up to them and they've just seen what shitty people they are deep down, and by the end they've just kind of accepted what the position that Slawick has put them in. And on top of that, the food in this movie does look great. A lot of this movie rivals Hannibal. We all remember that show, right? It rivals Hannibal in its ability to just show you all this really good gourmet cooking and make you not only want to try some of that, not only make you hungry, I genuinely want to cook some of the meals in this movie. That cheeseburger at the end made me feel so, like, it gave me all the warm and fuzzies inside, and there's just something about watching Slawick go back to simpler times when he was just a line cook at a random burger joint. As he's cooking this meal for Anya's character, you really buy that he's found something again that he has been missing for such a long time. And Ralph Fiennes carries it across in this way that just really kind of makes you feel emotional with him. And it's just such a well done scene, and that burger, it looks so damn good. As far as the side characters go too, John Leguizamo is also a standout. He adds a lot of great comedy to the movie. Chau in this movie, of course, is great. She's such a great actress. I'm so glad the Oscars acknowledged her and gave her a nomination, because she earned it for that performance in The Whale. And yeah, the movie's got a lot going for it. It's got a lot going for it in how it makes you think about art, how it captures the relationship with art, and how it can be a thing of beauty and how it can get ravaged by a lot of realities in the adult world too. The characters are great, the food looks great, the tone is great, and I've really got to emphasize the tone, because this movie does such a great job at capturing this perfect balance between suspense and comedy. Like, it's very suspenseful. You really feel the dread that these characters are feeling, but there are some genuinely funny moments in this movie. I mean, like, not just giggled, I straight up laughed the out loud at so many of the scenes in this film. I feel like it was the kind of tone that Scream 5 and Barbarian before it tried to capture, but honest to God, they did not capture it nearly as well as this movie did. And this movie, dare I say it, surpasses even the likes of most Scream movies in its ability to just carry across this level of suspense, while also sort of acknowledging the genre, making you laugh, and making it clear that it's not taking itself too seriously. It really captures that balance well, and the tone does so well for it. The movie isn't perfect though. There were plenty of moments where I feel like they jumped the shark in how thoroughly Slowik planned this whole evening out. There were plenty of moments where the characters could have fought back. Now, I get like at the end they're just too demoralized and they're just too ashamed of themselves and who they are as people at this point to do anything to escape their fates. But there were so many moments in the movie, like they could have escaped, they could have fought back, they had plenty of initiative to do it, and for some reason they just never seized the opportunity. But at the end of the day, that's kind of what the movie is. The menu isn't as good if you don't allow yourself to approach it with a certain suspension of disbelief. But if you can do that, the movie is great, and it's easily one of the best movies that came out last year. I loved it. I love the performances, I love the themes, I love the characters, just everything about this movie really did work, which is why I'm very happy to take it out of the oven and give it a very nice 90%. But at the end of the day, I really do want these videos to be a conversation, so I would love to know not just what you thought of the menu, what's your favorite foodie movie? I know there were plenty out there that are memorable. What's the one that Bradley Cooper was in? Was it Burnt? Yeah, Burnt. Personally, I know a lot of people who like that movie. I don't get it personally. As far as I'm concerned, it's just another one of those movies about an artist who's kind of an asshole. But hey, if you like Burnt, please tell me why. I feel like I'm missing out on something with that movie. So please, like, if you can get me to like that movie, I'd almost like really like love you for it, man. Please. I don't know why I'm the only person in my friend group who doesn't like that movie. I don't know what's wrong with me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, come join the Krispy Kingdom. We are all royals here. I also have a gaming channel, a clip channel, a Twitch. You can find me on the Global Nerds podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also find links down below to some projects that I am in, both ones that are already running and those that are in pre-production at the moment. But as always, thank you guys so much for coming along. This has been real crispy. And that's it. The Crisp is spoken. Take care.